My name's Adam, and a couple years ago, I took a trip up the coast of Washington with my dad. He's big on history, especially maritime stuff, old ships, sea disasters, lighthouses. We were doing this little father-son road trip after my first year of college, and one of our stops was a tour of this old decommissioned lighthouse called Fiddler's Point. It was one of those places you only find if you're looking. You're down a steep cliff road, past a rusted gate, with the paint flaking off the letters. The ocean was all around, but that day, it was swallowed in thick, wet fog, the kind that clings to your clothes and muffles every sound. When we arrived, the tour guide was already waiting, this older guy named Hal. Big beard, rubber boots, heavy coat. He looked like he'd been working in lighthouses since the 1800s. There were only 4 of us on the tour: me, my dad, a quiet couple from Oregon, and Hal. Inside the base of the lighthouse was surprisingly intact. Peeling paint, rusted rails, but solid. Hal led us up the narrow spiral staircase, explaining how Fiddler's Point had been active from the late 1800s to the 1970s. The last keeper had reportedly lived there alone for years, refusing to retire, even after the lighthouse had been automated. The top of the lighthouse, the lantern room, was sealed off, so we weren't allowed up there. But Hal did let us step out onto the narrow balcony that wrapped around the upper tier. The view was all white fog in every direction. I couldn't even see the ocean below, though I could hear the waves like distant thunder. Then Hal told us about the foghorn. He pointed to the large rusting speaker mounted below the balcony. This baby hasn't worked since the late 80s. Power lines got ripped out in a storm. They never repaired it. Budget cuts. He smirked and added, but the locals say they still hear it sometimes, when someone needs to be warned. I thought it was a joke, a little local lore to spice up the tour. But then he got real quiet and said something that stuck with me. They also say, if you hear your name in the horn, don't answer. Don't ever answer. We all kind of chuckled awkwardly, but I noticed he didn't laugh. We finished the tour and were heading back down when my dad stopped to look at an old radio setup in the keeper's quarters. I got bored and stepped back outside for some air. That's when it happened. The foghorn blared. Loud, deep, like it was right above me. The kind of sound you feel in your chest. And I swear to you, it said my name. Not just a blast of air.
Out of pattern.
It was distorted, but it dragged my name out through the fog like a moan. Ahadamam. I froze. For a second, I thought it had to be some trick. A prank recording, maybe. But there was no one else outside, and the horn was clearly dead. Rusted, disconnected, covered in bird crap. Still, I yelled, very funny, thinking maybe someone was messing with me. The fog just swallowed my voice. Then the horn sounded again. Add AM. Quieter this time, but somehow closer. I backed away from the tower, heart thudding. The air around me felt heavier, wetter, like the fog had weight. I turned to go inside to see the door had swung shut. I grabbed the handle. It wouldn't move. Locked. I banged on the door. Dad, open up, no answer. The foghorn blew again, but this time it didn't say anything. It just screamed. Long, terrible, piercing. I covered my ears. The world felt like it was folding in on itself. Then silence, just like that. The door creaked open behind me. My dad stood there looking confused. Why are you yelling? I looked back at the horn. Nothing, just rust and silence. Inside, Hal swore up and down that there was no way the foghorn could have gone off. It's dead, he insisted. Wires ripped out. I've been up there myself. I didn't argue. I just asked if he'd ever heard of anyone else hearing their name. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he muttered, just once. The last keeper said it called him up to the tower, said it told him it needed a light again. He went up during a storm, never came back down. I asked what happened to his body. Hal just shook his head. Never found it. To this day, I don't know what I heard in that fog. But sometimes, when it rains hard and I close my eyes, I swear I hear it again, dragging my name through the dark like it's still looking for me.
My girlfriend and I booked the Airbnb because it was weird. That was the point. We wanted something coastal, off-season, cheap, and creepy. The listing said lighthouse apartment in restored keeper's quarters, oceanfront views, and we were sold. It was tucked away on a rocky cliff in Maine, 2 hours from anything that even felt like civilization. We pulled up at dusk. The tower loomed above the little brick building we'd be staying in, connected to it like a skeletal limb. The host left us a note inside the door, said not to climb the lighthouse stairs because the top platform hadn't been repaired yet. Too dangerous. Fair enough. The inside was surprisingly cozy. Wood floors, a fireplace, ocean-themed decor. It creaked and groaned like old places do, but nothing that screamed run. We made dinner, poured some wine, and settled in to watch a movie. That's when the knocking started. 3 slow knocks on the front door. We froze. It was past 10 p.m., and we hadn't seen another soul for miles. No cars, no other houses. The kind of place where no one knocks unless they really mean to. I peeked through the window. Nothing. Just the porch, the wind, and a slice of moonlight on the stone steps. I opened the door anyway. No one. Just cold air and silence. We figured maybe it was wind, a branch, something stupid. We locked up and went to bed. But the next night, it happened again. This time at 2:17 a.m. 3 slow knocks. And then, again the next night, 4 knocks, always at 2:17. My girlfriend started to freak out. I tried to laugh it off, but truthfully, I was starting to dread the sound. It wasn't just knocking. It had rhythm, like footsteps disguised as knocks. That 4th night, I stayed up with a kitchen knife. Ridiculous, I know. But when the knocking came, I flung the door open instantly. Still no one. But I swear, just as I stepped onto the porch, I saw the faint outline of a hand pulling back around the edge of the lighthouse, like someone ducking out of sight. I ran over, scanned with my flashlight. Nothing. But when I turned to go back inside, I noticed something carved into the wood beside the door. I'd swear it hadn't been there before. 12 steps left. We didn't sleep that night. I tried to find the host. No response, no updated number. The listing had been taken down. We should have left. We tried, but a storm rolled in. The road washed out. We were stuck until morning. That night we heard the knocking again, 10 times, still at 2:17. We stayed silent, pretending to sleep, hoping whatever it was would go away. But then we heard creaking. Floorboards inside the lighthouse. Slowly, carefully, like someone walking up the spiral stairs. We couldn't see it from the apartment, but we heard it. 1 step, then another. 11, 12, 13. By this point, we were both awake, sitting up, listening, frozen. 14, 15. The air in the room got colder with each creak. The fireplace flickered even though it was gas. 16, 17. It stopped. No more footsteps. No sound at all. My girlfriend whispered, "He's at the top." I didn't ask how she knew. I just felt it too. The next morning, the storm had passed. We packed, left, and never looked back. A week later, out of morbid curiosity, I looked up the lighthouse's history. In 1976, the last keeper of that station, a man named Elliot Stroud, fell to his death from the top platform during a storm. Time of death was estimated at 2:17 a.m. His body was never recovered. Local legend says he climbs 1 stair every night at 2:17, trying to return to the top where he died. The listing said the lighthouse had 31 steps. We left on the night he knocked 17 times. I try not to think about what happens when he reaches 31.
It was late October when my friend Kyle dared me to go into the old Mariner S Reach Lighthouse. The town had sealed it up years ago after a storm wrecked the upper floors, but there were always gaps in old wood and fence lines. We were both 17 and bored. You know how it goes, everyone in town has a haunted place, and this was ours. Kids told stories about the old keeper who vanished during the last big storm. His body was never found, but they say the light still burned that night, even though the electricity had been cut. We brought flashlights. Though Kyle joked that we'd be fine without them, the ghosts got night vision. I hated how quiet it was the second we stepped through the crumbling fence. The ocean was out of sight, but close enough to hear. Waves rolled like breathing. The lighthouse stood like a giant shadow, its broken glass top like a cracked crown. Inside, it smelled like whetstone and rust. Our footsteps echoed way too loud, bouncing off the damp walls. The flashlight beams shook a little. I blamed it on my unsteady grip, but I was already feeling something was off. You know when a place just feels wrong? Like you walked into the middle of something and weren't supposed to see it. The first few levels were what you'd expect: old supplies, busted furniture, graffiti, nothing too wild. Kyle was recording on his phone, mostly to prove we were really there. Around the third level, I noticed something strange. A faint orange light flickered on the wall behind us, like firelight. We both turned, thinking maybe someone else was in the tower with a lighter or something, but no one was there. Just the stairs below, winding down into black. Kyle muttered, probably a trick from the flashlights, but I could tell he wasn't buying it either. We kept climbing. The steps got narrower, and everything smelled more like seawater. The silence was so deep you could hear dust falling. At the fifth level, I stopped. I heard it. Clink, scrape, clink, metal, like someone tapping or dragging something along the stair railing below us. We both froze. You hear that? I asked. Kyle nodded. Pale now. Keep going. But we didn't. We just stood there, holding our breath. The sound was slow, deliberate metal on metal, one step at a time. Then, that faint orange glow again, except this time. It was moving. It came into view around the curve of the stairs. A soft, golden light, warm, flickering like a lantern, floating midair. Neither of us was holding anything but our flashlights. We backed up, trying not to make noise. The light moved steadily upward. No footsteps, no shadow behind it, just the lantern. Almost like it was being carried by someone invisible. Kyle whispered, "Someone's messing with us." But neither of us believed that. I wanted to bolt down the stairs past it, but every instinct screamed, "Don't go near it." So we did the stupid thing. We went up, fast, skipping steps, hands scraping the walls to keep balance. We didn't speak. We just climbed. We hit the top level, where the glass dome once let the light beam out to sea. The storm had shattered most of it, and wind hissed through the gaps like a whisper. There was nowhere else to go. We turned, expecting the light to reach us. But it didn't. It stopped 3 steps below the landing. Just floated there, gently swaying. Like someone was standing there, holding it, watching. Then we heard the breathing. Not ours. Something slow and wet, like wind through lungs filled with seawater. It came from the space right behind the lantern. Kyle raised his phone, trying to film, but the screen flickered and died. My flashlight blinked, then went dark too. Only the lantern remained. I couldn't move. I felt heavy, like the air was pressing down on me. My ears rang. Kyle started whispering a prayer, something his grandmother taught him in Spanish. I don't even think he realized he was doing it. And then, just like that, the lantern began to descend, slowly, one step at a time. Clink, scrape, clink. We waited until it was completely out of view, then sprinted down after it like idiots, afraid it might double back. But the stairwell was empty. No glow. No sounds. Nothing. We didn't talk about it for days. When we finally did, we both remembered the same thing. The light didn't reflect on the walls like normal. And the railing, where the lantern had floated, was scorched black. Kyle never posted the video. said it wouldn't play. Just static, and at one point, a single frame showing the lantern. And the faint outline of a hand. Only thing is, the fingers were too long. And there were 6 of them,